Hello and welcome to 100 Yards of Football Sports Talk Radio. I'm your producer, Jeremiah Long, and joining me here on Monday is our host, Logan Landers. How's it going, Logan?
Hey, Jeremiah, I'm doing awesome, man. We just talked about great player profiles with our dude Dylan Moran about some of the, an amazing story with Shaquille and Shaquem Griffin, who play for the Seahawks. I'm doing good, man. My team, the Lakers, won the NBA championship last night, but I'm ready to talk some football, man. A lot of football going on this weekend, and we got a heck of a game to talk about, that's for sure.
You are right there, and we are previewing my home team, of course, the Tennessee Volunteers, playing our northern rival, Kentucky Wildcats, in an SEC game of the week. Now, this game is going to be played this Saturday coming up at Neyland Stadium. It's a big game for the Vols coming off their first loss of the season to Georgia. It was a tremendous game to watch, and we can talk about the game for just a second before we get into this. But the game versus Georgia, I saw the first half and the second half be two completely separate games. The first half of the game, Tennessee were still in the same vein that I've seen them in this entire season. They have a winning attitude. They were able to stand up at the line of scrimmage, and their defense was able to hold their own. Now, what happened throughout the first half reminded me of that season. We didn't turn the ball over. We were up coming into the second half, and I believe it was 21-17 or 24-17 coming into the second half. And then immediately out the gate, Garantano had his first and second turnovers of the season. Those two turnovers, both one from a fumble and one from an interception, both led to scores for the Georgia Bulldogs, and it was no turning back for Georgia from there on out, and the defense was just not able to get their footing back against Georgia from there. How did you see the last week's game and the way that it turned for Tennessee?
Yeah, well, look, when me and Vincent did the preview for this game the other week, we were talking about this game. Tennessee basically needed to play a close to perfect game to get that win.
Yep.
And like you were saying, man, with Garantano, he had those two very costly turnovers. Like you said, it really was a tale of two halves. Because in the first half, they looked like they could hang with Georgia and that they could maybe get that upset win. They were, like I said, they were still down. It was 26-14. That was the score. So they were only down by 12 points. So they had plenty of time to come back. But Georgia pitched a shutout going into quarters 3 and 4. Tennessee did not score any more points, and Georgia just absolutely outclassed them on both sides of the ball that entire second half. It got pretty bad. We said it was going to be a rushing game, and that's exactly what it was. We said whoever would get the most rushing yards would win this game, and boy, were we ever right about that. Georgia's rushing unit really just kind of took off. They ran for a total of 238 yards combined. DeAndre, it was pretty incredible, dude. I can't believe what they did. Garantano, he really just didn't do the best, and we've seen that he hasn't been the most clutch guy for Tennessee. He's a very divisive quarterback, we'll say that. Either a lot of Tennessee fans love him, or they want him to get out of the game as soon as possible. And we've seen, because I think he's a fifth-year senior, if I'm not mistaken.
Sorry.
I don't know. He's missing like one key piece for him to being a really good quarterback, and I don't know what it was. Like, I'll
tell you this: it could be confidence.
Maybe.
Definitely seen that when Garantano is feeling good, we see him going in, and when he's not feeling fantastic, then we see mistakes being made. Timothy Nelson, shout out to you. Yeah, he said that Georgia was going to beat Tennessee. He jumps in there, and I agree that Georgia defense is no joke. I mean, nobody definitely thought that. I believe you're exactly right coming into this game the same way that you said, Logan. If Tennessee can play a top-class game throughout 4 quarters, then they have a really great chance to beat Georgia. If not, then our secondary job would be to make it look good and have a great game. And I believe for any of those who stopped it after the first half, you would have thought that Tennessee was on track for that. So let's turn on to this new game. Okay, it was Tennessee versus Kentucky. This is a very important game for the Vols so that they can get their momentum back, they can get their mojo back, if you will, and they can still show that they are a world-class team. I mean, this is a team with a great coaching staff. We've got T. Martin, we've got Jeremy Pruitt, we've got everybody we want lined up when the coaching staff comes at it. The difference is going to be whether or not we can get that attitude in place and get everything aligned when it comes to what we want out of the game. So Tennessee has beaten Kentucky 17 straight times at Neyland Stadium, but tell of the tape, and I'll let you get into a little more stats on that, Logan.
Yeah, let's do it. So, like I said, we talked about Tennessee, how they weren't able to get it done. Like I said, their rushing yards was absolutely atrocious. They got -1 yards in the whole game. They definitely need to improve on that if they want to win against the Wildcats. Eric Gray I think he got hurt, so he was a little bit banged up that game. So it's kind of understandable, but they've really got to get their defense figured out as well. You can't give up 44 points to the Bulldogs and expect to be taken as a serious contender. They've really got to come out there with guns blazing. And they got to beat Kentucky to get a statement win, I think.
Yes.
But let's talk about the Wildcats for a little bit, because I know we talk about Tennessee. They're one of that's your hometown, man. But we got to talk about Tennessee or the Wildcats, because they're no joke either. Like I said, so we talked about Terry Wilson and Joey Gatewood earlier in the year, doing a little player profile on them. And like I said, we know that they're not going to throw the ball for 300 yards every game. They're a dual threat quarterbacks through and through. So with Wilson here, he ran for 50 yards against Mississippi State this past week, 50 yards, and he threw for 73. I mean, you're not going to ask for too much out of this guy. He's not, like I said, he's not going to be a top tier quarterback or anything, but he does fit the Kentucky system very well. They're very good with that. They're good with their dual threat quarterbacks, and like we said, we're seeing that more and more throughout the years, that the dual threat quarterbacks are really starting to come into their own and kind of shine, honestly. And Terry Wilson is really good at that. Gatewood, like we said, he's still kind of waiting in the wings for his shot. And then like I said, we've seen with that Mississippi State team, they're no joke either. I think Mr. Football did a Player of the Week a week or two ago about KJ Costello, who threw the ball an astronomical amount of times. I think it was for around 600 yards, if I'm not mistaken. And they kind of shut him down. So Costello threw for 55 total. He threw 55 total passes, completed 36 of those, but only for 232 yards and 4 interceptions. So that Kentucky defense was pretty stifling against a very good, I'd say, emerging quarterback. I wouldn't say Costello's top tier list yet. If he could have some more of those 600 game performances, that's going to change, obviously. But they had a very good day. They had 6 interceptions in total. 6 different guys got a pick each, so that was very impressive. And they just had their way with the Mississippi State Bulldogs, who people were very high on going into that game after that amazing performance. So we have 2 teams here. It's kind of weird. You have a team with the Wildcats who just came off a pretty good win coming up against not high ranked, but highly touted Mississippi State team. They're 1-2 on the year now after that loss. But people were thinking that, man, they could possibly be a sleeper pick to get in the top 25 and whatnot, but they weren't able to get it done with Kentucky. That defense is very solid. Mm-hmm. Now, if Kentucky wants to win this game, they got to get their offense figured out, because they did not have the best day offensively. And we see that Tennessee defense is always going to be right there. Yeah, they didn't have the best showing against Georgia, but Georgia is a top 3 ranked team in the country.
Right.
Kentucky is a little bit different. They're not ranked right now. They're 1-2 on the season as well. So Tennessee's got the advantage on both sides of the ball, in my opinion. And if Kentucky wants to win this game against Tennessee, they've got to get that defense. They got to get that defense rolling. They got to get some picks against Garantano. They got to stop that running. They got to stop the running game with Eric Gray, whoever it may be, lining up as the running back. They got to get it figured out. And this might be a closer game than people thought it could be going into this season, just solely based off the fact that, like we said, that first half against Georgia, Tennessee looked like a top 10 team.
Yes.
But Kentucky is a completely different monster, and Tennessee looked like a shell of themselves that second half. I don't know what happened. Maybe just the Georgia defense got to them too much. It wore them down. I can't say. But if Kentucky wants to win this game, then they need to play pretty much a perfect game. I would say, like I said, they got to get that defense going. Their offense for sure needs to do a lot better if they want to match up against this really high-ranked Tennessee team.
Yeah, I totally agree there. Something to note, too, last time that the Vols played Kentucky last year, actually, it was an interesting start to that game. So let's hope that Tennessee does the opposite thing, right? So last year, Tennessee started off the first two quarters with Brian Maurer, who is still on the depth chart. He's a sophomore, correct?
Yep, sophomore.
He's a sophomore. He's still hanging out. We like to see big things from him. They put him in versus Kentucky to see if it was a good replacement for Garantano. And unfortunately, in the first half versus Kentucky during that game, we came out of the locker room into the second half down 13-3 versus Kentucky. So then we put Garantano in. Garantano did save the game, quote unquote. He was able to get us to the win. Of course, there was a lot more offense and defensive linemen, that would say that they contributed to that win.
Right.
But, was it the switch from Brian Maurer to Garantano that did the trick against Kentucky in that particular game? Should we have been against the ropes at all versus Kentucky last year in the first place? So there's where it's the real wild card with Tennessee. We've got a great coaching staff. We've got a great and able and experienced team. But what is that if factor that's going to knock us out versus get us in there? So when I look at the quarterback position, everybody's like, take Garantano out, put somebody else in. And I'm like, okay, you have options to do that, but where do you go? Because you're not going to put Brian Maurer back in as quarterback versus Kentucky for the exact reason that he came out of the game last year for the exact same reason, because there's some ifs on whether or not that he can deliver versus Kentucky. So you're not going to start him out. You've got JT Strout, who's our third in the depth chart, who I haven't actually even seen play. He's apparently he has some great stats, when it comes to coming in, but he's not been able to get any real play time. And then you've got the complete question mark when it comes to college football level with Harrison Bailey. Now, Harrison Bailey is somebody that we did a profile on. This kid was a straight gunslinger coming out of high school. He's one that really was impressing everybody on a lot of levels. And when he committed to Tennessee, everyone was very excited because we need that depth over time. This is a player who does have a chance to really do something big. But again, he is currently just coming in. He's just learning. One season ago, this was a high schooler, mind you. And so if, we're going to bring somebody in to go against Kentucky, do you want the more experienced quarterback that has some weird ifs that you can't really predict? Or do you bring in a kid who was in high school last year to play against a college team that, Kentucky does have some depth? These are not all freshmen on their team. There are some people that, there's some seniors. They have a great team that's still, wanting to compete on a high level. This is the SEC. They know they're going to have to play these big games. So they're going to bring it. And they're going to look for any opportunity to shake up those if factors with Tennessee so that we do not, roll over them as we have 17 games straight. But with the tail of the tape, you have to look, did we roll over them last year? There is something questionable. We've got some people, watching that feel like a great idea would be to do the mixed quarterback where you throw a couple people in, throw them off. Now, I will tell you where I'm at with that idea because we've done that in the past. We had, a few seasons back, we had two different quarterbacks that were competing for the main job, and they were trying them both out between game to game. Now, the strategy there in my head is the coaching staff would have to build a game that specifically was ready to have these multiple quarterbacks coming in and out of the game. Because in my opinion, if you don't do that, then you've got people coming in just to run a play, and it's very easy for a freshman to mess up on that one play he's supposed to get right because of the amount of pressure that he'll be under. And, if Garantano's not doing well and you bring in someone like Harrison Bailey, and then the first thing he does is throw a pick six as soon as he comes out on there, that's not great for his confidence. That's not great for the team. And that's just not great for the system. Now, you might see him do something amazing. You might see the exact opposite. He throws a Hail Mary and, we get, we go in the 90 yards off the first play.
Mm-hmm.
Great, that's awesome. But do you get consistent football from someone who's not been in the mix for a few years, someone who's not trained, under a coaching staff on the college level for a few years? Do you get that? I just don't know that you see that.
Yeah, I mean, you make a great point, Jeremiah. I don't know if you would necessarily mix quarterbacks, especially in this game, because, like I said, Tennessee's not a pushover team. This isn't like a low-ranked team that hardly anyone's ever heard of that we've seen in the past where, a lot of teams face that one kind of team that no one's really ever heard of to kind of get an easy win. This isn't that. This is a very credible Kentucky team. Kentucky held the high-ranked Mississippi State offense to only 2 points last week. So you would definitely – I don't think you would throw in, like you said, a freshman quarterback at all in this game, barring an injury or anything. But I don't see – mixing the quarterbacks to be the best idea, at least for this game. Like I said, because Kentucky, they're no joke. Like I said, this is an all SEC schedule going on. It's very impressive, and Tennessee's going to have some tough games. And yeah, I know you brought the stat that they've won an astronomical amount of times in a row against Kentucky.
Right.
We just got to see how they're going to fare this year, because every year is different. You can't count out a team. Every year is different. You got new players, new coaches, et cetera, et cetera. And I would not sleep on Kentucky. I wouldn't take them lightly, especially coming after that loss last week. If I was Tennessee, I would come out fired up, wanting to make a statement against this team. That's what you need to do. And if Kentucky can hold them even close, you still got to wonder if Garantano is going to be the man to go to the rest of the season.
Yeah, I'd have to agree there. Well, I believe that there is the chance, and I believe that if we stay consistent, we're probably going to have to stick with Garantano and just learn our lesson from last time, get the hard win against Kentucky so that we know that our rest of our season is looking strong. We need to win out the rest of this season. This is, as anyone's willing to acknowledge, this is a different season than we've ever had. There are different factors to really account for because of the extra world that we've got going on right now. But that being said, it's about consistency. Tennessee comes in, they play a consistent game, then this one goes to the record books very quickly. If we come in and we do not play that consistent game through 4 quarters, then Kentucky's got a chance to eat away of what we're doing, and they may just throw that big Hail Mary that makes everybody in Knoxville say, what just happened? And I can tell you right now that my Uncle Tony, he's not going to want to see that happen. He's going to want to want Tennessee roll on this one and not have a high-stress day there. So what are your final thoughts on Tennessee versus Kentucky?
Like you make good points, man. Consistency is key, especially with this Tennessee team. They've got to be consistent throughout all 4 quarters. They look good in the one half against Georgia, but that second half, it looked like a junior high team out there. I don't know what happened with them. They've got to be consistent through 4 quarters against Kentucky, or else there might be an upset there. But I do have Tennessee winning this game, though. If I had to pick, let's just go 28-14, make it a kind of a lower scoring game. Like we said, that Kentucky offense really needs to get something going there.
Yeah, for myself, I'm not going to give a final score, and I'll tell you the reason why, because I'm not really great at predicting football games. When it comes to final scores, I would say this will be a lower scoring game. I'm really hoping it'll be a lower scoring game, actually, right, because I'd like to see Tennessee come in strong, keep it even essentially through the first half, and then have that little bit of pressure that they need coming into the second half to make sure that they close the gate, completely blow it out. And then I'd like to see the tail of the tape be more similar to the last game versus Georgia, but flipped, where maybe it was somewhat close in the first half, but in that second half, we finally closed the door and closed it out and came across with a real strong win in the very end of it.
Yeah. Sometimes you just got to have those good grit and grind kind of wins. You got to get your hands dirty to get that win. But I do see Tennessee winning this game. I see Timothy Nelson has it 21-7. Yeah, I could very well see that happening. The Vols have the offense to score even more than that. They got star power on both ends. And yeah, like I said, I just don't think the Kentucky offense is going to be able to keep up with Tennessee. That's how I got it going.
Yeah, definitely see that. And so the last thing that I will say for everybody watching over at Vols Nation, at Vols for Life, and all the other great Facebook groups that we share with, thank you so much for watching our show each week. If there's anything that you guys want to know more about Tennessee, any certain player profiles, please tell us in the comments exactly what you'd like to see. We are broadcasting live right now, so I'm reading your comments live. And if you don't get a chance to watch us live, then come back and watch the show a little later today, or join us because we are now broadcasting live on the Believe Podcast Network. We've got our Spotify, we've got Stitcher, we've got Apple Podcasts. And so you can come and look up 100 Yards of Football anywhere that you listen to podcasts, and we'll have this particular episode up today, right, Logan?
Yep, I'm getting it up today.
Yeah, so we'll have that up today. Here's our version over on Apple Podcasts. Now, what we'd also love you to do, if you love us on our podcast, then please send us a review. We'd love to have those reviews. Those reviews on Apple push our ranking up. And we're already seeing really great responses. But what we really like to do is hear back from you guys and see what it is that you'd like to hear from. And so I am Jeremiah Long, the producer, and this is my boy, the host with the most. You've been doing some amazing work over the past, 10
months. Been here since January, so I've been here 10 months.
Yeah, and in that time, we have had some incredible broadcasts. What we do this week was we're bringing you the SEC Game of the Week. It's Tennessee Volunteers versus Kentucky Wildcats. It's going to be live and direct from Neyland Stadium in Knoxville, Tennessee. Go Vols! Right here, boy. I'm telling you right now. And we're going to end it up, and just remember, Rocky Top, you'll always be home sweet home to me. Good old Rocky Top. Woo! Rocky Top, Tennessee. And that's where I'll leave it with you guys. Logan, thank you so much for joining me. We're going to be live here in just another second with a great preview all Monday long. And then make sure you join us on our podcast, on YouTube, on Twitch, on Facebook, and over on our Instagram, where we actually have been getting really great activity. And thank you for all the comments over on Instagram. So for the group with 100 Yards of Football, I'm producer Jeremiah Long, and been joining us with Logan Landers, our host. And we'll see you guys in just a few more. Bye, guys.